This is Lewis Ritson and you're watching Sport Icons.
So this was a very, very deliberate poll in the sense of I wanted to gauge your guys' thoughts on the European title. Does it match my thoughts on the European title? Now, granted, I could have given the options or worded them a little bit better, for sure, granted, okay? But either way, I just wanted to know how you guys thought of the European title, up and down the divisions. So the question was, does having the European title on the line for Dubois versus Joyce make it a bigger fight? I'll give you my thoughts on that one in a second. Is it an important and must-have title to win? Again, I'll give you my thoughts in a second, as in many fighters have never even fought for that world title, such as Anthony Joshua, Nigel Benn, Carl Froch, plus many, many others. In fact, I'm not even too sure if Amir Khan even fought for the European title. I don't know. I know he hasn't won the British, the Commonwealth and the European. He hasn't won all three. He definitely bypassed a belt or two. But anyway, it is what it is. I'm just curious as to your thoughts on it. The options were, yes, it's a must-have title. 16% of you thought that. 22% of you thought, nope, it's about as relevant as the IBO. That's a little bit of a dig, wasn't it? And 49% of you thought it's only good for prospects coming through. And 13% of you guys went, no, just no. All right. Now, of course, when you guys are clicking the vote, as I said, just over 2.3 thousand of you, you can drop a comment. Okay, and that's what we're going to base this video on, is a lot of your comments and, of course, my own thoughts as always. So we're going to start off with, does having the European title on the line for Daniel Dubois versus Joe Joyce make it a bigger fight? Now, let's talk realistic here. When this fight was announced, it wasn't for the European title, okay? So anybody who saw that fight, and nobody went, nah, I don't fancy watching that fight. I don't think I'm going to click the red button for that one and watch it on BT Sport pay-per-view. Nah, I ain't going to watch it. Then a couple of weeks later, it was announced that the European heavyweight title was going to be in the line. People went, actually, yes, I'm definitely watching it now. Ain't nobody out there said that. Nobody out there said that. And that's pretty much my point. Now, is it an important and must-have title to win? Now, I'm going to contradict myself a little bit in this video, okay? Because first of all, do I think it's a must-have title? No. In the sense of, what's the difference between the European title and the Commonwealth? Let's be real. Outside of the certain countries from where you can fight certain opponents from. For a European title, I think it's very, very relevant title in, say, Germany, for example. But with the Commonwealth, of course, with that belt, you can defend it against anybody here, this side, in Britain and that. Of course, then you go like further afield, like New Zealand, Australia, Canada, Jamaica, and so forth. Okay, so that's like the European. So you are fighting outside of your country and defending that Commonwealth title or fighting for it. The European, you're, of course, not necessarily restricted, but you're here fighting, say, the Germans, the Italians, the Spanish, even the Russians and the Ukrainians, even though that they're not officially European, but they can fight and defend for that belt. Okay, now, for me, what's the difference between the Commonwealth and the European? Absolutely nothing. Now, I understand when people say, you know what, I think fighters should go through the gears, go through the levels, area, English, British, Commonwealth, European, world. But as I said, European and Commonwealth, there's no damn difference, let's be honest. There's no difference whatsoever. And as far as going through the levels, well, you don't need the belt on the line to be fighting the Europeans. You can fight them anyway. In some ways, arguably, same with the British and the Commonwealth. But I think here in the UK, listen, for me, if one of my friends, for example, that I know, like Stephen USR Robinson, 3-0 heavyweight at the minute, if he ended up fighting for the European title and won it, I would be ecstatic. I'll be running up and down the streets naked swinging it. I'll be very, very happy for him. But I'll be very happy for him as well if he won the English title. Other ones like Lewis Ritson, I'll be ecstatic for. Tommy Ward, Joe Laws, and so forth. I'll be very, very happy for them to even win an English title. I'll be ecstatic if they won the British. But I'll be happy if they won the European. And I'll be very, very happy if they won the Commonwealth. For me, the European is good and I can be biased with it if it's for people that I know. If it's not, I don't really care, to be honest with you. For example, Josh Kelly versus David Avanesian is for the European welterweight title. That doesn't make it a bigger or better fight just because that belt's on the line. That belt can be on the line or not. I want to watch that fight anyway. Much like Daniel Dubois, Joe Joyce. I want to watch that fight anyway. I couldn't care less about the European heavyweight title. Couldn't care less about it. Now, the answers that you guys are saying, 16% yes, it's a must-have title. Most people who said that, again, going by the comments here, is because about the levels. But again, while I can agree with the levels, it's a good way to gauge, is somebody ready for the world level? Because say a domestic one here, for example, a British level guy or girl wins the title, the British, and is dominating everyone domestically. But we're not too sure if they're ready for world level yet. Let's step them up a little bit. Let's look at the Europeans. But again, you don't have to have the European title on the line to be fighting the Germans, to be fighting the Italians, the Spanish, and so forth. You don't need the belt on the line to gauge how good they are. Because in Germany, it's a very, very relevant belt, the European title. Because domestically, outside of Germany, nobody really looks at, say, the domestic German title and goes, ooh, that's a good one. Likewise, maybe they look at the Brits and go, well, who cares about the British title, right? Maybe. But the European title is very important for them, again, because a lot of them, they don't really get the rankings. They don't really get the opportunities to become world champions or fight for a world title or get a high ranking if you're over there in Germany or Spain and Italy, etc., etc. You're going to have to do something pretty outstanding to be ranked and get an opportunity like that. So maybe that's why the European title is quite relevant there. But again, not everybody has to go through the gears. As I said there, Joshua totally bypassed the European title. Carl Froch never even fought for it. Nigel Benn never even fought for it. And there's plenty others who never even fought for it. So for me, it's based on individual. Going through the levels, the area, the British, the Commonwealth, the English, blah, blah, blah. Sure, it's a good thing to do, only if you're building. But it depends on, first of all, the opportunity, depends on who your promoter is. Maybe the promoter of the European title is the best that they could possibly do because they can't produce a world title. Maybe. But for me, I don't think it's that relevant, to be honest with you. I don't, and it's about as relevant as the IBO. Again, the IBO. If one of my friends wins the IBO, I'm very happy for them, of course. But as I said, I'll be very happy for them if they won the English. Ecstatic if they win the British. Stupendously happy if they ever won the world title. European title, sure, I'll be happy for them, of course. Because any belt, I'll be happy with. I'm very, very biased that way. But the European title is about as relevant as the IBO. The IBO title, for me, if you don't order a mandatory, if you don't order a defense, then how relevant are you? Put that belt in the museum. I understand its history and certain amount of respect should be given to the IBO. I get that. But in today's boxing, there's way too many titles. Way, way, way too many titles. And that's all down to the sanctioning bodies now as well, with the WBO European title and the WBO Continental title and the global belt and this, that, and the other. There's way too many belts. Way, way, way too many belts. So the IBO title, while all these other belts, by the way, like the European title, they at least order a mandatory. They at least order two fighters to fight for the vacant, such as the heavyweight European title right now between Daniel Dubois and Joe Joyce. That has been ordered by the European Commission, the EBU, which is the fact that Joe Joyce, he was meant to fight Ajit Cabello. Ajit Cabello lost his ass and bottled it, vacated the belt. So they went, okay, fine, Joe Joyce, you're in line. Marco Huck, you're up next. Marco Huck, after originally said yes, apparently got injured or whatever it was, and they went to reschedule it, then pulled out. So Joe Joyce is now fighting Daniel Dubois for it. Okay, so at least they do actually order fights. So we do have to give them some kind of credit. The IBO don't. The IBO is like a wart on the side of the fighter's backside. It's just another trinket. That's all it is. And nobody looks at the IBO and goes, wow, you're a world champion. Like Chris Eubank Jr. Does anybody look at Chris Eubank Jr. as a legitimate world champion at super middleweight because he walked around with the IBO? Ain't nobody looked at him and thought, world champion. Nobody did. And he would have traded that belt for the WBC, the WBO, the IBF, or the WBA. He would have traded that belt in a heartbeat. That's how irrelevant the IBO belt is. For me, put it in the museum, put it in like a nice display case, and leave it there. And nobody need it. It's less relevant to me than the British, to be honest with you. But of course, certain people, if you're a promoter, if you're a manager and your fighter is fighting for the IBO, well, they're a world champion. It's a good selling tool, but it ain't the truth. We know that much, okay? Now, the European title is only good for prospects coming through. As I said, I think this goes hand in hand with the yes must have title for those who believe you should go through the gears, but again, depends on the fighter, does it not? Depends on their amateur background as well. Say, Lomachenko, he turned pro and quickly went after the world title. So totally bypassed the European title. And yes, Lomachenko, even though he's Ukrainian, could have fought for the European title. Same with Alexander Usyk. Same with quite a few other fighters. Now, in a few years gone by, certain fighters did, like the Klitschko brothers, for example. Again, Ukrainian. They have won the European heavyweight title before. Tyson Fury has won the European heavyweight title before. Lennox Lewis has also won that title as well. But many fighters don't. So I think it depends on your background and opportunity as to whether or not you believe the European title is relevant or not. As I said before, you don't have to have the European title on the line in order to fight the Europeans. There's no restrictions as to why. None whatsoever. But I understand it is a way of saying, well, who is the best in Europe in that weight division, in that weight class? Who's the best in Europe? But again, so many fighters don't fight for it. So for me, it's not important. It's just not important. I have no problems with anybody fighting for it, but it's not going to make me want to watch it all the more if it's for the European title. Unless, of course, it's one of my pals, then sure. Why not? For me, the European title is the best title in the world. If one of my pals fought for the IBO, man, you're a legitimate world champion. I'm very biased that way. Anyway, that's my thoughts. You drop me yours. Quick thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you all in the next video.